checking in on the other war, this time in Europe. Russian attacks on Ukraine's northeastern city of Kharkiv on Tuesday killed at least 2 civilians and injured more than 30 people, including a child. Regional officials say 2 people were killed in a park near a lake, a man and a woman, and the 2 more were wounded. Earlier in the day, a Russian attack injured 28 people, including a 16-year-old. The authorities there are working to verify the type of weapon that was used. Kharkiv Mayor Ihor Terekyov said a civilian production facility had been hit. He added that a fire had also broken out. Located 30 kilometers from the border with Russia, Kharkiv has been a frequent target of Russian attacks since the start of Moscow's full-scale invasion in February of 2022. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte says Ukraine could be facing its toughest winter since Russia's full-scale invasion began in February of 2022, as Moscow continues to attack the country's critical energy infrastructure. Mr. Rutte was speaking in Brussels as he played host to Finnish President Alexander Stubb.
NATO must and will do more to help Ukraine. Russia continues to carry out massive strikes against Ukraine's critical energy infrastructure. Ukraine could be facing its toughest winter since the full-scale invasion began. I welcome Finland's continuous support to Ukraine. You have delivered a significant amount of support, over 2 billion euros in military aid. What Finland is doing helps save lives. And the more military support we give, the faster this war will end.
The VOA's Anna Chelikova joins us now from Kyiv. Anna, great to see you. And we're here today facing another winter with this war. Does this feel like deja vu for many Ukrainians?
Good evening. Yeah, it's a great way to put it, I think, because Ukrainians were hearing from the government, from the allies, that the toughest winter is coming in the history of Ukrainian independence. It was in 2023, and now, and then it was in 2024. Now the winter of 2025 is approaching, and again, Ukrainians hear that this might be the toughest. And actually, there is this feeling because, of course, if we compare the amount of energy infrastructure and critical infrastructure destroyed or damaged by Russia in 2022, 2023, 2024, we do understand that it looks like that the winter will be a tough one, and definitely it's not going to be something completely new, but at the same time it will be something new because of the amount of the infrastructure which is not ready for winter, and it's not ready because it's just either destroyed or damaged in a way that it's just impossible to bring it back to action so quickly.
Yes, and I'm wondering still, how exactly are Ukrainians coping with this, and the fact that there really is no end in sight to this war? How are they coping with food and supplies? The last time we spoke about this, towards the winter season, you said Ukraine had enough grains, had enough food supplies ahead of the winter. Is that still the case this time?
Well, if we look in general at the situation, it looks like that Ukrainians will have food and will have products to cover their needs. However, at the same time, I had a chance to talk to farmers, especially to little and middle farm companies, and they are saying that definitely it is a very different case. Again, comparing to the past years, even the years of full-scale invasion, because again, situation with energy impacts a lot this sector of business and this sector of economy, of course. And even if you go these days to the market, you can see that there are much less products which are proposed by the small and middle farmers because of because they just have a smaller amount of things they can sell. So it looks like that Ukrainians will definitely have enough for themselves, and but at the same time they will have less than they usually have, and definitely less of this, eco market products, which is very popular in Ukraine, because those farmers, they just have to as well cover their own needs. So I cannot say that it's a critical situation in this term, but definitely it is declining, and the impact of war and such long war, if we are talking about it, it's more than 10 years, but full scale is now almost 3 years. So either of those is long. So I should say that it shouldn't be a critical situation, at least how it looks now, but definitely not something that Ukrainians used to.
Yes, and this will not affect exports of Ukrainian grain, because I know we have received, I think, a portion of that here in Nigeria.
It shouldn't, because again, this is something that is kind of divided. So the grain goes to export as agreed, because Ukraine as well understands, and actually Ukrainian government and president emphasize every time that Ukraine understands the importance and the responsibility of sending grain to countries that this was agreed on, and especially in Africa, and definitely it should be unchanged. Again, we can see also that very often Russian forces attack the port infrastructure in Ukraine, and sometimes we hear that certain vessels are damaged, or heat or debris fall affected them. So this kind of situations might create additional difficulties. But again, I don't see that Ukraine will stop exporting or will decline the amount of exported products very much, or significantly. So it should be fine.
President Volodymyr Zelensky continues his tour of support for Ukraine. He was speaking recently at the third Ukraine Southeast Europe Summit in Dubrovnik. He said Ukraine and allies have chance to move things towards peace and lasting stability in the region. Does it feel like that?
The thing is that it's difficult to say if there is no insider information from President himself. So at this point, I can say that definitely health of Ukrainians and moral state of Ukrainians. Well, it's difficult. So it's really difficult. It's fall, winter is coming, so everyone feeling this pressure of survival pressure, because it's much easier to survive during summertime and during warm weather than if we're talking about winter, especially cold winter. That usually is the case for Ukraine. And at this point, neither the government nor President Zelensky presented the so-called victory plan that President Zelensky was presenting to Ukrainians. So no one in Ukraine knows exactly the details of this plan. Of course, there are things that everyone is talking about, some leaked information, some information that was announced, but definitely not in detail. And Ukrainians definitely want to believe and want to get this at least possibility for kind of either end of the war. Well, ideally end of the war, but at least to have a certain agreement on the table to discuss and to get some time without shelling, without active phase of war, to have this negotiation happening. Again, this is one side of the coin. Another side of the coin, it looks like, and this is understanding here inside of Ukraine, that there is no real signs that Russia is ready for negotiations, as everyone understands the word negotiation. So Russia is definitely ready to talk their own priorities and their own desires, but at this point, Ukrainians do not really see that there is a way for real negotiations with Russia. But again, as I said at the beginning, there is no much details which were presented to the Ukrainian society and which went public. So maybe we don't know something that actually could could change situation dramatically, and maybe we don't know something that gives President Zelensky this feeling that because just a couple of hours ago it was he announced that the situation at the front line shows that there is a possibility to end hostilities in 2025, and again, we don't know details, so it's really difficult to predict something.
To your point about Russia's unpreparedness to negotiate, the Russian ministry spokesperson, Maria Zakharova, earlier today said achieving a just peace in Ukraine would be impossible if Kyiv loses its neutrality by joining NATO. What is President Zelensky's victory plan for this war? What he presented to U.S. President Joe Biden and then to the presidential candidates Kamala Harris as well as Donald Trump. What was contained in that plan that gives him so much confidence that Ukraine can win this war? If Russia still insists, if Ukraine goes ahead to join NATO, that will be the end.
This is a NATO issue. If we talk about it as an issue from Russian side, it's something that Ukraine and Russia would probably never agree on. The only possibility which is discussed again by experts here in Ukraine, that it will be just, the fact that Ukraine made this choice, and then certain situation will happen that Russia will say nothing, or will say that they do not agree, but nothing else. So nothing more than that. The thing is that for Russia, of course, Ukraine joining NATO is something that they will definitely try to avoid as much as they can, and they will try to do everything possible from their side to prevent Ukraine from this step and from this even possibility to join NATO. For Ukraine, from the other side, this is the only real possibility and the only real end scenario to actually expect that such kind of war will not happen again in the nearest future. We're talking about like 5-10 years, because there is a very high level of fear inside of the country that even if hostilities or hot phase, active phase of the war ends, like in the nearest future, then again, Russia will use a couple of years to prepare and will definitely attack again. This is the main fear. And this is why for Ukraine joining NATO, and of course we hear a lot of different discussions about part of Ukraine joining NATO or certain territories joining NATO and different other conditions. This is the only real way to actually have this, guarantee that such big war will not happen again, because there is a very strong belief that if Ukraine is a member state of NATO, Russia will not attack. So, and joining NATO is something that Ukraine definitely puts as a priority, and experts also believe that, as we can see, Russian officials, they say a lot of things, and they say put a lot of red lines, so-called red lines. But again, at the end of the day, there are things that Russia cannot do anything about and cannot prevent and cannot stop. And for Ukraine, joining NATO is such thing. So for Ukraine, nothing that Russia will say or Russian officials will stop from this desire. Another question, if this would be a real possibility, and this is something that which is expected to be discussed during the next Ramstein, which was supposed to be on the 12th of October, but will be, apparently will be moved to another date.
Anna, thanks again for speaking with us, and do stay safe.
Thank you.